Good evening, friends, and welcome to Insight. I'm your host, Pat Gagliardo, and tonight's topic is VOPPS, Victims of Paranormal Phenomenon Support. With me is Bill McCauley, who works at Pratt & Whitney as a jet engine tester, and his wife, Laurie McCauley, who is a licensed practical nurse, and their two sons, Jeffrey and Jason. We will also be speaking with Loyd Auerbach via telephone from California. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to Insight. Good evening, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, boys. It's a very interesting topic, ghost and poltergeist activity. And I'd like to start off tonight's questions with you with what exactly is VOPPS?
VOPPS is Victims of Paranormal Phenomenon Support, which we established because my family lived through a paranormal experience, a haunting to be exact. We had earthbound spirits and negative energies in our home in which doors would open and close, lights would go on and off, objects in our house would move, thunderbolts, we would see thunder in the house, lightning.
Where was this? I know you don't want to get...
In Connecticut.
In Connecticut?
Right, northern Connecticut.
Northern Connecticut, okay. And how long ago?
Oh, about 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Is this sort of like, I mean, it almost sounds like an Amityville horror type of situation for me and our viewers? Can you give us some details of exactly what happened? How did it start? How long were you in the house?
Well, shortly, this was our first home that we bought, and shortly after we moved in, I felt like a presence was watching me all the time, and I could never see anybody. I just felt like I was being watched, and I happened to mention it to my husband that I feel like something's watching me all the time, and he just brushed it off. He always has something to say about everything. He just kind of brushed it off like I was crazy, you know? And then I noticed my son started seeing and waving to something that I couldn't see was there, and he was able to see this spirit that was in our...
Jeffrey?
Jeffrey, right.
You want to tell us a little bit about it, Jeffrey?
Well, there's this man at nighttime. He would always come through my sister's room, but she never slept in there. And then he would come to my bed and he would like pull down the covers and stuff, and he would ask me not to listen to my parents and stuff like that, and to take drugs and skip school.
Well, did he tell you who he was? I mean, could you see him clearly like you see me?
Yeah, but he never told me who he was.
He never gave you his name. But you didn't listen to him, did you?
Nope.
Good.
This bedroom that Jeffrey's talking about was directly over our Laurie's and my bedroom, and in the middle of the night, around 3 o'clock every morning, we'd wake up to hearing footsteps. That room was completely empty. We were going to use that for our baby room. Laurie was expecting a baby at the time, and we'd hear footsteps walking across the room.
Now, you never saw anything. You just had sensations. Is that correct?
In the beginning.
In the beginning, and then it catapulted and got worse.
Such as?
We'd have black masses in the house. Our phone would ring at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'd pick it up, and the phone would still be ringing in your hand.
White mist, you'd see a white mist floating.
Wasn't there an incident where you were sitting at a counter, a snack counter?
One afternoon I came home from work, and Laurie was making dinner, and I was sitting at the snack bar talking to her, and I had a pair of shorts on. It was hot outside, t-shirt. And as we were talking, I felt a hand grab my ankle. Not hard, not forceful, but I just felt like something very gently grabbed me around my lower leg. And I jumped up and said, Laurie, something just grabbed me. And the picture you see on the monitor there is what...
He used to grab us and touch us all the time. And Jason and Bill also saw, and Jeffrey saw the lady in purple.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the lady in purple?
Well, sometimes when stuff was really bad at night, she'd appear and stuff, and she'd come and sit on our beds and tell me and Jeffrey that everything's going to be okay. And sometimes when stuff were really bad, she'd pick up my brother in her arms and take my hand, and she'd bring us down to the kitchen and tell us to run into our mom and dad's room.
Did you tell your mom and dad the story? Did you go in and talk to them, and what did you do then?
At the beginning, I thought that my son, when I heard him talking to something I couldn't see, that it was like an imaginary playmate. I really didn't give it much credence at the time.
New baby coming, we thought.
Right, we thought maybe there was some type of jealousy, and I called the pediatrician, and he says, oh, you must pay more attention and give him time, quality time, and I did, and nothing was changing except, you know, then I'd see like the spoons tapping on the counter when nobody was...
During the daytime?
Yes,
oh, sure.
yes, during...
You could sit in our kitchen and be knocking on the walls. you could hear something running around the roof. We'd be eating dinner, and we used to have little white lights. They used to go around the house in circles, ghost lights.
Inside on the rooms.
And we used to shut all the shades. We tried to figure out what was going on, and with the sun reflecting off of car bumpers, you know, going past the house, we shut all the shades, we shut the curtains, and sure enough,
You're always
lights would
looking
go
for
by,
the
gold
logical,
lights.
pragmatic reason. We didn't just assume the house was haunted. It took, you know, a lot of things happened before we come to the conclusion.
I was just going to ask you that question, Lori, Bill, either one of you, which one of you wants to answer. What was the final trauma that led you to realize that something was going on, and where did you go? What did you do when you did realize that something out of the normal was taking place?
I think when my dog was thrown down the stairs, he was actually thrown down the stairs. You could see him come flying. There was nobody else upstairs, and it wasn't like he tripped. He actually, you know, I could
physically
see.
Thrown. Right,
there was part of the staircase I could see. You could see he was in midair coming down the stairs. If he fell, he would have been, you know, on the stairs. And because of it, I felt there was harm there. I felt like there was definitely something we had to do about
this. The house was filled
this.
with smoke. You could almost
Like
like
fire.
The fire was like it was going to burn down. One day, one of my neighbors came over. I was bringing my son home from his house, and I was sitting on the porch, and I looked up, and the eaves of the house were all up in flames. And I said to my friend, "Can't you see that?" I panicked right away. I was going to call 911, and he couldn't see it, and then it was gone.
So what did you do?
So then my husband, it was like you didn't know where to turn to. I've never heard of anybody who worked with this or where to get help. So my husband says it's not like you can look in the yellow pages and find under.
Not yet.
Right.
We're
working on that.
Right.
And so my husband decided to call the library and find out if there was someone he could talk. And they gave us the name of a husband and wife team to come in who deal with this type of phenomenon.
And what happened then?
They came in and they told us that we had demons in the house, and we were pretty much in danger, and they recommended that we have an exorcism take place in the home.
She also verified, we had a babysitter. We didn't want to frighten the children. We didn't want to say our house is haunted or anything like that. So we had a babysitter at the time and had the kids outside. And she went in and she said she saw this man there upstairs. She saw this man. And the next day after they left, I said to Jeffrey, I said, "You ever see anything in the house?" And he goes, "Yeah, I see the man." And the same description she gave me was the exact same description, you know, that he gave me. So I knew he was seeing something.
So you then started putting two and two together.
This is really happening, you know.
What was the advice? What was told to you that what measures could you take?
They told us to get the house blessed and to burn high church incense in the house.
First we had to call the church, and we talked to our priest, and he told us to say 3 Hail Marys and call him back in the morning.
Right.
Basically, it was
very skeptical. I mean, very reluctant to offer any help regarding this kind of phenomenon.
Roman Catholic, are we talking?
Yes.
So it was a fact of just trying to convince the church that there was a problem in the house. That was the first thing that we had to do, was convince them.
Before the program aired this evening, we were talking about a lot of fear, and you seemed to feel as though there was too much fear purported, or that you felt that it wasn't necessary to be made aware of such fearful tactics. Is that what caused you to look elsewhere, to continue your investigation in other areas?
Yes. Yes, definitely. They worked with us for a while, and then we went out and felt like they kind of just
left us
us high and
because we
dry.
didn't go public with our story. We weren't interested in books and movies at
And
that time. We were interested in
sensationalism.
just getting rid of the problem, getting our
Oh,
family
that
back to
turned you
normal
off,
again.
I take it, then. That you,
Right.
okay.
And they didn't approach it from a positive attitude. They brought it in through a lot of negative. Their projection was very negative, instilling fear instead of trying to allay the fears.
So you wanted to try and do something on a more positive note, thus VOPPS
Exactly.
came about.
Right.
Now, is this how you got
People
in
are
touch
scared
with
enough when they're
Loyd?
going through the situation without other people or groups coming into your home and promoting even more fear, which is going to make the situation even worse.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
felt so alone at the time. There was no one we could really talk to. I mean, we did express it to some friends and family, and they knew us long enough to know you're not crazy. They knew us so that everything was okay.
They knew your character.
Right, exactly. And so we felt it was very important to reach out to other people who have had this kind of experience so that they wouldn't feel alone, and that we do relate to what they're going through and understand what they're going through, because I think in the United States the paranormal has such a stigma to it.
Right.
And I think that needs to be addressed. I think that needs to be corrected. People have to look at this as part of reality and know this exists.
Science and mental health organizations have to take a better look at this
A closer
phenomenon.
look.
Right. And rather than labeling everybody kooks
Right.
or mentally off balance or
Right,
incompetent.
right.
Is that how you connected with Loyd Auerbach?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I called the American Society of Psychical Research in New York City, and they gave me Loyd's
Dr.
name.
Kalasosis, did you speak with Dr. Osis?
My wife spoke to, who did you,
Patrice Keene.
Patrice King.
Okay, must be another colleague then, or someone who, I'm very familiar with the American Society of Psychical Research. I, too, went on my own search many years ago, way back in the late 70s. Loyd, are you with us?
Sure am.
How can you give us some light here on the situation, how you helped Bill and Lori to establish or to get this VOPPS off the ground?
Well, I really basically agree with them completely that it's very, very difficult for folks to be in touch with or find someone they can talk to. And I think it's a very supportive situation to have other families who have had positive or negative experiences with paranormal phenomena, with psychic experiences. People do want to know that there are other people like them. And in fact, this phenomena, not just the haunting, but just psychic phenomena in general, is very, very common. The haunting situations, poltergeist situations, are a lot more common than you might expect. But, you know, they don't happen to everybody every day. So it's helpful for people to be able to talk to other folks who consider this part of their lives or part of their normal reality.
I want to ask you a question, Loyd. I know that this is basically a majority or a good part of your life to investigate in this kind of phenomenon. Is there any part of the country or in the world that you might feel that has more or less of these kinds of experiences than others?
Well, there are certain parts of the world, especially if you look at specific cultures like the Australian Aborigines themselves or other groups around the world, where psychic abilities are accepted as part of their day-to-day reality. It depends on the kind of phenomena. In some places, ghosts, for example, in Japan, people very often believe, who are in the Shinto religion, believe that they have ancestor spirits who are guarding them, who are watching over them. So that's part of their reality. And depending on what your religious background is and depending on what your cultural background is, you'll find that different pieces of psychic abilities or just paranormal phenomena are part of the day-to-day life.
So you would say then, I'm going to I want to ask your professional opinion and a personal opinion as well. A paranormal phenomenon of this magnitude exists, correct?
Yes, it does.
Have you ever yourself communicated with energies?
Well, I've been in situations where we have, among other things, had psychics or even spoken with families who are talking to ghosts, and we've gotten some good factual information out of some of those situations. But a lot of the cases we deal with are not spirits per se. They are leftover energy or remembered or memorized or recorded information and imagery left in from past occurrences. And a lot of times, even when you might conceivably really have the idea of a ghost, someone who's hung around after they're died, some of the phenomena is often triggered by some of this more historical information that's been recorded into the environment. It's not all necessarily just the ghost.
And so there can be some very positive things that can occur by someone's energy or an entity that is left here, maybe to help make things better for someone, not just necessarily to frighten them or harm them.
I firmly believe that the majority of experiences, if people really step back for a second and take a look at them, are positive. And for the very simple reason that the majority of human experience in general is positive.
Well,
the problem you have very often is a reporting problem. I mean, if the McCauleys have a problem and 15 other couples have a very positive situation, the people who are going to seek help are the McCauleys.
Exactly. I'm also a facilitator of the psychic sciences, and I'm so happy that there is going to be VOPPS available. Thank you so much, Loyd. And when we come back, I'll be taking your calls about ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeist activities. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back. And for those of you who may have just tuned in, you are watching Insight, and we are discussing victims of the paranormal phenomenon. Go ahead, Beth from O-Line. You're on the line.
Hi. I was wondering, did you actually get rid of them, the poltergeists?
Yes, we did.
Did you ever, try to communicate with them?
They tried to communicate with us.
We were very reluctant to talk back to them. We did have an exorcism in our house, and we did have other people come in and pass over earthbound spirits to the light. So the house was clean.
Because I've had an experience, and we moved out of the house because we didn't move out because of that reason, but, I stopped, the all the weird stuff stopped and everything once, because I guess it was connected with the house. Was that connected with the house?
We believe so. We believe it was connected with the land itself. A lot of people think that hauntings are these houses with the shutters banging off the...
Old and dilapidated. But since your phenomena stopped when you moved, I mean, it sounds like possibly that it was related to the house.
Or the land
It
itself.
wasn't a bad phenomena. It was friendly, but it was still not for me.
Well, I hope you took down that address, Beth. We'll be showing it for the remainder of the program intermittently. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sue from Hamden. You're on the line.
Hi. My question is, I might have had some paranormal experience or something with a poltergeist or something, and, you know, it used to kick my bed and stuff like that, but there'd be nothing there. And I was wondering, because we moved from North Haven to Hampton, would it be possible that it might follow me?
There is that possibility that could occur. Sometimes entities will follow an individual, but that necessarily is not always the case.
Okay.
Are you still experiencing those things, Sue?
Not of now, but I'm just curious if, you know, it might follow me in time.
Have you suggested that it go to the light?
Not yet.
Well, you know that I'm a Christian, and I also believe in the power of prayer. And if you do feel anything, you know, from this day forward, then you might want to just talk to it. And prayer to me is not something that's written. It's just speaking from your heart and speaking from the love in your heart. Okay, thank you, Sue. Have a pleasant evening. Go ahead, Diane from Plainfield. You're on the line.
Yes, I definitely believe in ghosts and spirits. I lived in a haunted house since the age of 9 years old. And when I was older, I had explained it to my parents and to different people in the church, and I was sent to a psychiatrist. And I was diagnosed with schizophrenic, and it gave me Thorazine and Stelazine. And then later on, when I was older, I found a psychiatrist that believed in ghosts and spirits and found out I was completely normal. And I thought that was interesting because this is an experience I've seen for many years.
Right, and you're not alone. You're not alone. There's other people who have had that exactly happen to them, too. They've gone to psychiatrists, and they've been labeled. And I think this is very wrong, and it needs to be addressed in our society today.
If you look at our family, Diane, as I was saying to Pat before the show, our whole family did become mentally ill all at once. You know, that's impossible to happen.
Yeah, they were even talking about giving me shock treatments at one point.
Right.
Well, my mother interfered.
We realize that there is mental illness out there, but a lot of these cases is just plain paranormal. And it's a reality, and it happens to families and to individuals.
And the medical field does have to address that, and I'm so happy that you found someone who was willing to listen and help you.
Well, the best thing that happened really at the very end was after I had moved out, and our family moved out of this duplex house. No one else could move in a house because they were reporting to the owners that the ghosts were bothering them. So finally, everyone was able to say, hey, there's ghosts here.
Right.
It was good for my self-esteem.
Right.
Well, there is a support group now, and that's why Bill and Lori and their two boys were so gracious to come on the program and share this. What we need to do is educate the people. Thank you so much for sharing that, Diane. Go ahead, Rio from New Haven. You're on the line.
Hi, how you doing? I was sitting here drawing, and it just hit me. I had gotten out of the military, Marines, and, you know, you hear about this kind of stuff, and you say, okay, yeah. Well, my brother and sister-in-law have two kids, and they had a, you know, certain type of experience, and I came over to the house, so I stayed over that night. So they were telling me about it, so I'm like, okay, yeah, right. And the next thing I knew, the phone just like, the cord ripped out of the sockets, stuff started falling down, and I mean, we were out of there so fast, and I could not believe it. I thought, I'm like,
You don't feel me now.
you know, and this is a trailer now. And I was like, wait a minute here, you know, because the kids would say, well, the phone will do that, and, you know, the phone would ring even when it's off the hook. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we went and we got the priest, because we're Catholic also, and she came in, and we put up crosses over the door. And she said, well, you've all got to band together and just, you know, believe in God and just, you know, just don't piss it off or anything. But, you know, don't try to do anything to do that. But just, you know, just band together. So it scared me, and I had seen a lot in my life. But, you know, when you come across something like this,
That's right.
you know, there's other stuff out there, and it's not just us in the universe and beyond.
That's very true.
Rio, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And please stay tuned with us. As I said to the other caller, we'll intermittently be showing the address of VOPPS. Thank you so much, Rio.
Thank you. Y'all band together. It'll be all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we intend to do. That's why we have this program. Thank you. Go ahead, Mark from Bridgeport. You're on the line.
Yeah, hi. I babysit a small child in Bridgeport, and one of the questions that I had for you is that he has an imaginary friend, and what I was wondering is that as far as it being a poltergeist, because the kid has been heard upstairs in his room making louder noise than what a small child could basically produce as far as thumping around like he's being chased by something. And what I was wondering was that could that be a poltergeist?
Well, one wouldn't really know, and I'm going to speak for Laurie and Bill, being that I'm a facilitator myself. I wouldn't even take a guess at this point without physically being on the premises. A lot of things could happen. It's not always, poltergeist activity isn't always, you know, a projection from an entity that has, or an energy that's deceased. It can be the child, too. So one must determine, first of all, by consulting with someone like myself or like Loyd Auerbach, to determine exactly what the energy is. But it is something that should be looked into. You should probably make the parents of the child aware of it, Mark.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call.